go. Good morning.
What's going on? What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Hope all is well. It is the Tallboy Experience, and my name is Corey Sanders. I go by the name of Iamtallboy. That's right. So some of you guys may not know who I am, and for the ones who do not know, I am a Georgia resident, City of Atlanta resident. I don't know why his screen is on right, why her screen is on right now, but we'll figure that out in 1 second. Should be my thoughts. But as I was saying, some of you guys may not know who I am, but I am a Georgia, City of Atlanta resident, and I am concerned about this year's election. And I think if you live in the City of Atlanta, particularly District 5, I think that this is something that you should be paying attention to as well. So with that being said, I had an opportunity to do some research, and when I was doing my research, I found some things that were very disturbing. Now, I don't care who you vote for. I don't care what it is that you do, as long as you get up and go vote and you learn about your candidates. Well, there was something that I read that was disturbing, and one of the candidates actually reached out to me, and she said, "Hey, I got time for you." So you know what? I said, let's make it happen. So without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce my guest for the evening. She's a Republican candidate. She's running for the, if I get this right, correct me if I'm wrong, the Georgia 5th Congressional District seat, the seat that was previously held by John Lewis, the late John Lewis, that shall we say. She's an author, best-selling author, and I think the name of the book is called Life of a Real Housewife. She's a reality star, and she does a lot of things in the community, and she also has a nonprofit. Without further ado, y'all, I would say clap, but we're not in a live studio audience because of COVID. But without further ado, let me introduce to you Angela Stanton King. How are you?
I'm wonderful, Tallboy. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me and using your platform to, I guess you could say, promote awareness and let your viewers know why it's important for me to run for the 5th District here in Georgia.
Well, I think that this is really important, and I say that because we all know who John Lewis is, and we know, the impact that he has had on the community, shall we say, and he's an icon. But the one thing that I want to give credit to is you were running against him, shall we say, in the June primary. So this is not something that just sprung upon you post his death. This was something that you said you wanted to make a change. And before I get started, I want to say I did a little research on you. And when I did the research initially, without doing a deeper dive, I really didn't want to, I judged the book by its cover. And when I judged the book by its cover, that was a bad mistake on my end. And when I saw some of the things that you were about, I was like, hold up, time out. Let's get to know who this woman is. And when you reached out, I was very honored the fact that you felt like, I'm just a voter. Who am I? You took the time out. So I definitely want to commend you on that. And first, let's ask, why do you want to run for the 5th Congressional District seat?
Before I answer that, I want to say that you're more than a voter. You're just like me. I'm a voter. I live here too. So, if I don't win, then that means my opponent will also be my congressman and my voice, somebody that's representing me. I'm running because for me, it's not about politics. It's more personal for me. I'm a lifelong Atlanta resident, and I've grown with this city. Not only have I grown with this city, but I've been a part of this city, and I've experienced not only our justice system, but I've overcome the system. Not only have I overcome the system, but I survived the system, and then came back and fought this system to get the First Step Act passed. I think that for me, some of the things that's important is from my own personal life experiences. I mean, being sexually assaulted at the age of 5, making a lot of bad decisions because I didn't have the proper guidance or the proper mentorship, should you say. Finding myself at 14 pregnant because, of course, after having my innocence taken away, I began to live a promiscuous lifestyle. Choosing to give life to that child and not abort her. Today, she's an attorney, a Howard Law graduate. Finding myself at 27, chained to a bed here in Georgia, giving birth to my daughter, and then having her snatched out of my arms 24 hours later. 2.5 years later, being released from prison with a $25 check and a bus ticket. And the only thing I had to my name were the 4 children that were waiting for me. Having to rebuild my life from that. Not anybody wanting to give me a job, not being able to get any type of government assistance because I was a convicted felon, just literally starting from the bottom up and creating a lifestyle for myself, which I like to say I've gone from prison all the way to the palace. For the last 15 years, I've worked very hard to not only right my wrongs, but to restore this community. I've worked very closely with Atlanta Public Schools. I've helped to create over 500 nonprofit organizations in the state of Georgia alone, servicing returning citizens, victims of sexual abuse, pregnant women. I've just been paying attention to politics lately, and I think that the voice for people like me, the voice for people like us, has been completely lost when it comes to politics. It seems as though right now, the only things that they're fighting for is for illegal immigrants and LGBTQ. Where is the fight for black men? Somehow they've been lost in the sauce. Where is the fight for black America? We still have 3.5 million black people living in poverty here in the United States. And one of the things that I know is that us as a people, we don't want to commit crimes. We don't want to abort our children. We need access to capital. Black money matters. And I just want to use my own personal experience and the favor that God has given me in these last 4 years through the relationships that I've been able to create to really push Atlanta forward and to look out for the people that have truly been forgotten. I do believe that Atlanta has been stuck in a buddy system for a very long time. And okay. I think that it's time for those of us that have been overlooked to get everything that we're owed, which is much more than the broken promises that we've received for the last 40 years.
Well, one thing I like about what you say is, I was doing some research, and as I was reading up about you, you said, I came from the trap house to the White House to the church house. And that was one of the things that really made me just say, you know what, she's a person that's just like me. And, my thing is, if you can't be down on Bankhead, you can't be at church on Sunday morning, and you can't be up with, politicians or, with the elitists, as we call it. It's like you have to be a voice of the people. And one thing that I've saw with you is, I see that you hang out with Miss Deb Atney, who is a good friend of mine. I know that you have some ties with Rollo Famgoon, all the way down to your pastors. And then we've also seen you, all the way to all the way up to the White House with Donald Trump. So I commend you for that because it shows your diversity, shall we say. And I think for me, as I was doing my research on you, this is your first time running for any public office. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was never nothing that I planned on doing. I never said one day, hey, I'm going to wake up and I'm going to run for office. I just realized that there was a real need for us to have representation. Not only representation, but we also need Republican representation. I've heard so many times the Republicans aren't our voice. They don't represent us. And one of the things that I know is that I know whenever laws are passed that they have to be bipartisan. So it's important for us to have representation on both sides. And so that's one of the main reasons why I decided to run as a Republican. And that was to make sure that we have a voice at that table.
So can I ask you a question?
Donald Trump has solely been about advancing the Black community. When I first went in and I first met the president, it was all about trying to get the First Step Act passed. And even then I was using my own personal story to just speak about how important it was for us to reunite our own families in the border. I heard so much about people talking about the family separation at the border that it kind of just lit something inside of me, remembering that day when my daughter was snatched out of my arms back in 2004 and Donald Trump wasn't president. So it wasn't him separating children. America has had a long history of separating families all the way back to slavery. And so I knew that if we could have the compassion to say the people at the border deserve a second chance and their families need to be reunited, then I knew that I needed to fight for our families to be reunited right here in the border. I knew that I needed to fight for our children in cages. We have children in juvenile detention centers across this nation. The majority of those children are fatherless, parentless. They have parents that in jail. You know, grandma done got too old. Nobody can see about them. They don't have the proper guidance. We need a voice. We need somebody that's willing to fight for us. We don't need a puppet. We don't need somebody that's sold out. It's time for us to really stand up and begin to make a difference in our community. And that's why I'm running.
Let me ask you, what were your thoughts on John Lewis? Because I know that you were running against him in the beginning, but then now that he's passed, what are your thoughts on him and his legacy and stuff like that?
Of course, one thing that my mother always taught me was to respect my elders. I have nothing but the utmost respect for Mr. Lewis. It would be an honor to take the torch and to continue running with it. One of the things that I would do differently from Mr. Lewis is I would not vote to abort our children. I think that's where me and Mr. Lewis kind of don't see eye to eye as far as what I stand for. But other than that, it's all about, like I say, picking up this torch and continuing to fight for justice, continuing to fight for freedom. My main goal is to make sure that we have access to capital. I know why we commit crimes. It's the same reason why the people at the border are committing a crime to have a better life. We got people right here in the hood willing to take a chance because they haven't had the desires of their heart. They haven't had the things that we see on TV, the things that we idolize. They haven't had, a fair shot at opportunity. For me, that's one of the main goals. I want to make sure that we are building Black wealth. Black money matters, and that's what I'm stuck on.
Got you. So let's just say you win on November 3rd. November 4th, you wake up. You know that you're going to be covering, you'll be taking over for the next 2 years. Day one, what is your plan?
I want to connect with the community. My race is not about me. This is about us. I want to bring in people like you. I want to bring in people from the outside. I want to have a meeting. I want to hear from you all. What do you all need? So many times we get these people in office and they're a voice from us, but they haven't heard from us. They don't know the things that are plaguing us in the community. My race is about us. We will run this together. We'll work together to figure out our problems. That's the first thing I want to do. I want to connect with our leaders in the community, sit down, have a roundtable discussion. Let's come together and work and figure out what it is that we need to push Atlanta forward. That's what I want to do my first day in office.
With that being said, on the screen, and I think you may have a small delay, I think that you have some things that you say that you're running for, and the things that you are standing on. And I kind of wanted to see what your thoughts were on some of those things. Can you talk about, I know you said day one.
Yeah, I can see it. So a strong economy, we know that that's important. I think that disaster recovery management is at the top of the list, especially after COVID. People want to know where their next check is coming from.
Correct.
A lot of people lost their businesses. A lot of businesses were destroyed. So for me, it's very important to make sure that we're fostering entrepreneurship, job creation, and job growth. So that's something at the front of my line. The next thing is school choice. For me personally, I remember raising my daughter even after coming home from prison. And my daughter is 16. She has a 4.2 GPA. She's always been gifted. But it had always been a challenge in getting her in schools that met her on an academic level. You know, if you live in a low-income community, then your children has to go to the low-income school. And we know that the schools that aren't properly funded are not teaching our children, are not challenging them. So school choice is very important. Religious freedom. You know, you started this conversation off with me being able to go from the trap house to the White House, all the way to the church. You know, regardless of what your religion is or how you worship, we all have to be free to worship. Right now, we can see after a lot of these riots have taken place in COVID, we can see where our nightclubs are open, our abortion clinics are open, but our churches are closed. That's a no-go for me. We need to get our churches back open. We need to make sure that we are protecting religious freedom. Another thing that's on my list that makes me different from a lot of other candidates is I want to make sure that we are putting forth legislation that protects the innocence of children. To me, that's so important. Right now, today, it seems as though we live in such a hypersexualized society. Everything that we see is about someone's sexual choice or sexual preference, even when it comes down to our education and what they're teaching our children in preschool, in elementary school, in grammar school. Why not just let our kids be kids, right? Let's get back to the days of allowing them to just ride bikes and go to school and get their education. Let's stop pushing the agenda, right? That forces them to feel as though that they need to be focused on sex at so young. That's important. Our Second Amendment, listen, Black people, a lot of times we say, hey, the Democrats, hey, we want gun control. I think smart gun control is important. But right now, with what we see going across our nation with, you know, police-involved shooting, we have gang violence, we have people calling to defund the police. We see where police officers haven't been showing up when people have called. It's very important for all of us to be able to protect ourselves, to be able to protect our homes, to be able to protect our businesses. Of course, criminal justice reform. From my own personal story, it's very important to me for us to get Black men out of prison, get them rehabilitated, get them back home, get them inside of their children's lives. Some of those things for me are at the very, very top of the list. Making sure that we also, protect traditional families, right? We want the mother and the father and the children together. While our families have been separated, our families have been destroyed, even when you go all the way back to Section 8. You know, I remember a time when I could collect Section 8 and they would say, hey, you know, we'll take care of you as long as you make a certain amount of money and the father can't live here in the home. And I even remember back in the day them coming in with a flashlight, looking up under the bed and looking in the closets, looking for shoes. You know, that was the beginning of our family separation right there. Another thing I want to do is restructure our child support system. I need to make sure that we are doing things that uplift Black men. Everything we hear right now is about Black women or Black trans women or LGBTQ. What about our men?
Can I ask you a question real quick? Because right now we see a lot of images on TV, and we see homosexuality on our African American shows, such as Power, such as Empire, such as all the. What are your thoughts on that? Can you hear me?
We're back.
Yeah, I said, what are your thoughts on the homosexuality images that you're seeing on TV?
Well, I'll say this as a parent. I have a son that's a part of the homosexual community. He's an adult now. I also have an aunt. I think that I'm also a psychology major. I'll be graduating next month with my BA in psychology.
Congratulations.
And I know that one of the first ways that our children learn is through observation. They learn by what they see and what they hear. And I think that is very, very important for us to protect what our children see, not only homosexuality, but heterosexuality. We don't want to expose our children to any type of sex, right, too early or too soon. I do believe that there is an agenda to make the Black man look weak. And I think that it's important for us to begin to stand up to that and begin to, fight for our culture and what we stand for. A lot of these white liberals, as I call them, Malcolm X talked about it a long time ago. Their perception and their agenda that they have for life does not represent us. So it's so important for us to get back to Black leadership, to teach the importance of being a man. As a Black woman, let me be the first to say that Black man, you are loved and we need you. It just seems as if right now everybody wants to throw the Black man away.
I think we're having some. I think we're having some audio issues. Hold on. We're having some audio issues. I'm trying to see where is that coming from. Is that on you or on me? Can you hear us? Mic check. Is that you? Can you hear us?
I hear you, but it's an echo. Oh.
Wow. Let's see if we can get the Be Right Back screen. Let's just see if we can do something. Hold on. Let me see if it's this here. I don't know if it's you or me. Give me 1 second. Can you hear me now? How's that? Oh, put me on the screen. Yep. My thoughts. Just my thoughts. All right. I don't know what's going on. We're going to see if we can get her to come back into the room. I think that she has some important things that she has to say. I have some questions for her, and I know that she's been going, what's the word I'm looking for? She's been telling her agenda, but I also want to be able to ask her thoughts on a few things. I really do like what I hear, and like I said, primarily as a Democratic voter, there's some things that when you get to learn the other candidates and see, you're not going to always agree with what they're saying, but I think at the same token, you just have to find a common ground. And when you find that common ground, I think that that's one of those things where you have to say, who's best for you? And I think that's kind of where we're going to try and see if we can figure that part out. Angela, if you could turn your device sideways, I believe. Nope. I don't know if that's it. Well, while we're still working on the audio, I'm not sure what's going on. What are your thoughts? Please leave your comments on the YouTube channel. I can see your chat questions. We're just trying to figure out the audio right now, and we lost her, so I can hear her, but we can't get her on the screen. So if you can stand by, go to the Be Right Back screen if you don't mind. She say be right back. Stand by with us. Let's see if we can figure her out real quick. Stand by. It's the Tall Boy Experience.
There we go.
No.
That's just completely That's just completely dead.
Not sure what's going on. Don't see you or hear you.
Switch on.
Angela? she go?
You talking about in here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Go back to.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, shake your head, yes. Hit the. That's not shaking your head.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
All right, I do apologize. I think we got her back. I know we were having some. I thank you guys for staying with me and not losing. We had some technical issues with the video and the sound, and we were able to get her back. So thank you so much for coming back on, and I definitely appreciate that because I think Georgia voters really need to understand, you know, what you stand for. And I don't really want to talk too much on this situation. And I think it's kind of unfair to you, shall we say, that your opponent, her name is Nikema Williams, she has chosen not to give you a debate. And I wanted to know what your thoughts are on that. And let's talk about that first. Well, what are your thoughts on her not wanting to give you a debate?
Yeah, I wanted to come back on. I don't have that much time left. I'm sorry we got disconnected. It lost some of our time. I probably got about 7 more minutes. But I want to say that how unfair is that to the constituents of the 5th District? I mean, it's more about her dismissing you all. I mean, I just think that it's very disrespectful, and it just shows some of her elitist behavior, and it tells us her attitude. I mean, she feels as though that she does not have to speak to you all. She does not have to address you. Not only that, but she's not willing to show up and tell you all what it is that she's willing to offer. She's made a couple of posts about me in regards to how I'm not fit for public office. but that's the only thing she's done. If I'm not fit for public office and you are the best option for the 5th District of Georgia, then why not show up to a debate?
Right.
Let's discuss this. So let's have this conversation and let's let Atlanta choose who they think is best. So I just think that it shows us this, like we were talking about before, this buddy system, right? Where they're all about their friends and they're not really about the people of Georgia. And it's like, when are we going to wake up?
Do you
I think that.
Do you think?
I'm sorry.
Do you think it's the good old boy system?
Of course, that's exactly what it is. I mean, that's how she even got written in on the ballot. I mean, if you just talk to some of the other people that were running, Barrington Martin was running against John Lewis before John Lewis passed as a Democrat. How disrespectful is it that they didn't even put him on the list of finalists to be considered? And he was the only one bold enough to run against Lewis
him
before
right.
He passed away. So that goes to show you, if they'll do that to a member of their own party, then you know what they'll do to me. I mean, my back is kind of up against the wall. My campaign has been completely blackballed. I mean, they won't allow me to promote any of my campaign stuff on any type of social media. The media here in Atlanta, Georgia is being very, very biased to only showing one side and not properly reporting on this candidacy or this run. But it's important for me to not only raise my voice to kind of wake you all up to show you what's happening, but just use my life as an example for us to really see what's going on in this corrupt government system that has us all bound.
Well, like I said, you don't have to necessarily have to agree with her, but you do have to just at least hear what she has to say and see if it makes sense for you. And you may not like the president, but my thing is, just because he's the president and she likes her, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to like her, but you could pick somebody in office that is going to work for you in the state of Georgia. And I think, like I said, it was kind of messed up what they're doing to Barrington Martin. It should have been you and him when John Lewis unfortunately passed away. I think that would have been a fair fight. But, I mean, unfortunately, they say that the rules, quote unquote, says that the Georgia Democratic leader takes over as opposed to giving it a special election. And then to see 131 people jump on the bandwagon not even a week after the late, great John Lewis passed away.
2 days. It wasn't even 48 hours.
131 people jumped on board. So I'm not telling you to go out and vote for, Angela, but I am saying go look at her website. Go check out her views. See what she stands for. And hopefully, if you see what she has to say, go to the other person. Her name is Nikema Williams. I'm not sure if we can find her picture on the screen. It doesn't really matter if we do or we don't. But the thing is, when you go to her website, you don't see anything that she's running for. And you don't know what her policies are. And in the short time that I've had with her, with Miss King tonight, Stanton King, she at least gave you 5 or 6 action items that she would like to do. And she's also said, that this is what she's going to do on day one. And I think that that's great. I do think that, what are your thoughts on defunding the police? And we had this big issue with George Floyd, Breonna Taylor. What are your thoughts on defunding the police as far as the city of Atlanta?
So I want to say that I was on the ground marching for George Floyd in Minneapolis. Not only that, when they had the FBI press conference, I was the only black woman that was there that demanded that those officers be arrested. It's so unfair that, if you're a white person, you get to choose whether you want to be Republican or Democrat and you're not blackballed. But if you're a black person and you decide, hey, I want to be a Republican, then all of a sudden you're no longer black. I think that that's not fair for us to operate with that type of bias. And I don't think that the D or the R at the end of the name should matter, right? We have to understand, why are people Republican or why are people Democrat? I'm a Republican because I absolutely do not agree with aborting full-term babies, and I absolutely do not agree with sexualizing or transitioning young children, right? Children that haven't even gone through puberty. So that's two of the main reasons why I'm not a Democrat. I think that, for one thing, it's just so important, again, like you say, for us to stay focused on what we need as a people. You know, when you think about conservative values, a lot of us were raised on conservative values. We believe in God. We believe in traditional families. We believe in a hand up, not a handout. So I just want people to look at me as a person. Don't be dismayed either way by the R at the end of my name. That doesn't take away who I am as a person. It doesn't take away my experience, and it doesn't take away from what I want to do for the people of Atlanta. When it comes to defunding the police, we don't need to defund the police. We need to reform the police. When we talk about criminal justice reform, that also includes police reform. And anytime there's an instance where we need criminal justice reform or someone goes to jail, their first interaction is with a police officer. That's before they go to court, before they get sentenced. So correct. Police reform is a part of criminal justice reform. I'd love to see community policing put back in place. We need to bring the community and the police together. Why are we not having police officers patrol the areas that they live in, areas that they are from? Why are we not reinstalling beat walking when we have officers on the street that are patrolling the neighborhoods, that are familiar with the people that are in the neighborhoods? We need to begin to mold that relationship and being those relationships back together again.
So can I ask you before we go further? And I don't know if this is something that you can do on the federal level, and I know this is really more local, but as one of your bills I know that abortion and first choice is one of your top priorities, but you crafting a bill to where the police have to work or do something in that community.
Yes, criminal justice reform includes police reform. We want community policing brought back. I want to create an outside review board. Anytime that there's a police involved shooting, to have an outside agency to review those cases to make sure that there is no bias whatsoever inside of those cases. I was also on the ground with Rayshard Brooks and Sequoia Turner when she was killed. I'm from Summerhill. That is my neighborhood where I grew up at, right there on University and Pryor. And it's not just the police, right? We got to begin to have accountability as well for our own actions. And I think that it's just time for us to hit the reset button.
So I have a question. So someone just asked, how do you expect criminal justice reform to happen? So from your own words, that's one of the questions that one of the people that's watching on the stream just asked. He wants to know, Marquez Gaines wants to know, how do you expect criminal justice reform to happen? Are you there? Can you hear me? Angela? Did I lose you? Okay. Okay. I don't know if I lost her or not. Can you put her website on the screen? I know that she had some other things that were going on with her, and yeah. So let's put her website on the screen. Got her website on the screen. It's Angela. What's your website again? I think it's Angela Stanton King for Congress, if I'm correct. Angela Stanton King for Congress. Let me confirm that with you 1 second. But thank you guys so much. I wish we didn't have these technical issues that's going on right now. Can you put my screen back up, if you don't mind? Just my thoughts. So I'm going to confirm her website for you guys. Go to her website. Make sure that it looks good. Go through it like a fine-tooth comb. Go to her opponent. November 3rd, you can start doing early voting October 12th. October 12th is the actual early voting date. Go in person. When I tell you I have gone in person and I was in and out of there in less than 2 minutes if you go to early voting. I know that they're talking about mail-in voting, and if you feel uncomfortable with COVID, I completely understand. But we heard about the mailboxes being taken up out of the community. If you just go, mask up, put your gloves on, get in there, get out, you'll be all right. Her website is actually Stanton King for Congress. That's Stanton King for Congress. Not sure what happened with her. I wish that I could have had more time, but I do appreciate her for taking a moment because, like I said, I'm just a Georgia voter that lives in the city of Atlanta. And when I reached out to the Democratic candidate, she basically ignored me. That's it. She ignored me. At least this candidate said, you know what, Tallboy, I don't care how big you are, how small you are, no pun intended. She literally took the time to say, you know what, I'm willing to come on and have a conversation with you. And with that being said, I can't ask for anything more. You heard what she had to say. That's all I could really say. Just get to know her. I'm not telling you to vote for her. I'm not telling you to vote for Nikema Williams. I am telling you to vote. I am telling you to learn about your candidates. And outside of that, that's pretty much it. Thank you, Angela Stanton King, for your time. I wish we could do this, and maybe we can reschedule this again closer to the election date, and we'll go from there. I think it's the ending that you need to run. And with that being said, thank you guys so much. It's live streaming. I know we're having problems, but we'll figure it out. It's the Tallboy Experience. Thank you so much. I'm out.